Are we ready now? Okay. Today we are doing the STARS number 7 listing presentation, and normally I have a co-instructor here, Lori Caudill, but she has to be somewhere else today, so I'm going to fill in with some other things in the middle that basically she a lot of times gives her listing presentation specifically. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go over today some of the samples that we actually have put on the dashboard for listing presentations. But first off, a listing presentation has several parts to it. The first part is actually getting an appointment to go to that listing presentation. The second is preparing for that appointment, going to the appointment, and hopefully getting the listing and putting the listing on the MLS and putting it up for sale. So we're going to go through those sections, and if you've got questions, please speak up loudly. I'm a little hard of hearing. I've got one ear, so especially if you're in the back, yell at me, would you? So, and please, if you do have questions, raise your hands, let me know. So the first thing that happens is you get a phone call from someone that you may have given your card to. It may be a friend, it may be a relative, it may be a neighbor, it may be somebody you work with, but whoever it is, they call you and they say that they're looking to possibly list their house for sale, and they want to talk to you about it. So you have some pre-qualifying questions that you need to ask these sellers, and I think we've thrown in a list of some pre-qualifying questions. This is just some guidelines, but I've kind of put in here the basic questions that you've got, and there's other questions. All of these types of things can be done. I like to do it in a conversation. You're not just going down a list and asking people what their plans are. You want to have a conversation with them, and they'll answer some of those questions just in talking to you. So, but anyway, to basically start out with, you want to know the reason and what their goals are for moving, and when and where would they like to move. These things are important because if you, number one, you want to find out if they're going to plan on moving right away, or if they're planning on moving in 6 months. It makes a difference on how you, or whether you do a presentation or not. And where they're going to move, you may get a call from somebody who says, I want to list my house and we want to move to a bigger house. Great, you might have a chance to have both sides. You may be able to help them as a buying agent and help them sell and list their house. Where they're going to move, sometimes I've had them call me and say, we just bought a new construction home, and so we need to sell our house. Well, obviously I'm not going to get that part of the deal, but those things you need to know. And do you own your own home, and do you have a mortgage? These are all basic questions, and of course, if they own it, you know that they have a possibility of going out and purchasing, and especially in this market, they have a chance of going out and purchasing prior to selling their house, which can be advantageous when it is a seller's market right now, and then sell their house later. If they have a mortgage, you may talk to them about how much they owe on that mortgage, and whether they can, what their plans are as far as what they're going to do with that money if they have equity in their home, which hopefully they do. More questions, what price range, of course, are they in for listing your home, their home? Describe your home and tell me any upgrades and remodeling.
Materials, I think there's people materials. I can grab that materials.
Yeah, they're getting some more copies. So we'll bring them to you. When you ask them to describe the home and what they've done, this will help you when you start to do research on the home to find out what price range it should be in. If they can just give you some basic clues as to whether they've remodeled the kitchen and how soon it was, whether they've kept up maintenance on the house, whether they put a new roof on, whether they've got a new air conditioner. You can add these into what you may feel like the value of the home is and how easy it will be to sell. There are times when you'll have people you'll be talking to who they haven't done anything to their home. They need to sell their house to get out of it, and they haven't got the money to do additional things to it. So you need to take these things into account. And another basic question is, are you prepared to list? That, of course, is something you want to know. Are they going to list right now, or are they going to list sometime way down the road? You get the appointment, and you're going to go do a presentation. The biggest word here is that you've got to be prepared. Basically, you want to do some homework on that property and find out whether it's going to work for you as far as a listing is concerned. There are several things that you want to get prepared for that listing presentation, and basically you start out with, I start out with a previously prepared presentation folder. I always put a folder together, and I usually have 2 or 3 of these things kind of set up just basically. And what they contain will be some various things, and I'll go over this in just a few minutes. One of the things you want to do is, the first thing you want to do is look up the previous listings of the address on the MLS. If they have sold in the last 5 years, or if the property was sold in the last 5 years, if they purchased it, there's a good chance that that listing is going to be on the MLS. I think it even goes back, I don't know how far that goes back. I know 9, 10 years now. How many?
7.
7? Depends. I found one from 99 the other day on Iris, but I use Iris, so I don't know. I don't know about Metrolist for sure. Gives you, this idea can give you a lot of good clues on what to do as far as that house is concerned. The property may have had some additional improvements done to it, and if you're lucky enough, it may have some pictures on there. The MLS is great nowadays because of that, so you can pick up a lot of information there. First thing or second thing you want to do is look up public records and get an O&E report from a title company. The public records gives you basic information about the size of the home, the size of the lot, what the taxable value is, might give you some kind of idea of what price range it's in or close to it. And of course the O&E report is extremely important. I always have a little story about an O&E report. Before I got into real estate, my wife and I put an offer in on a house in Lafayette, and we got under contract. They accepted our offer, and we got the title work from the title company. And this particular property, which was about a $250,000 house, had $5 million worth of liens on it. And that $5 million liens, what happened is it came from the fact that the lady that owned the home her father had co-signed with her. Her father was the owner of a large supermarket chain that went bankrupt, and so everything, any of his assets were tied up, and that was one of his assets. It had like 25 or 30 liens on it. So there was no way that that was going to be cleared in time to try to close. It could have taken forever. Needless to say, we bowed out. But the reason that that happened is the real estate agent that listed the property did not do his homework. He didn't get an O&E report. He just accepted what the lady said, that she owned the property, it was hers. Didn't even have the father's name, he didn't have it listed as one of the owners. So you find out these things, and the O&E report is extremely important, and so make sure you get that when you have a property. It does cost you $5 when you order it from the title companies, but it's worth it, believe me.
The 5 who need a copy.
Oh, thank you guys. The other thing that we do, of course, and you've all heard about this, is a comparative market analysis of the neighborhood. Basically looking for solds, what's actively listed, what compares to this property, and you want to look at things that have the same values in that comparative market analysis. To talk about the presentation folder, and this, like I said, is something that I prepare ahead of time. I have 2 or 3 of these at home usually set up, and I add things to them that I think are appropriate for the particular listing presentation that I'm going to go on. But mainly what you've got in here, you can, and there are more things that you can oh, I'm sorry, Mary, you're the one that we took it away from. You can always put more things in here than I've got in here, so this is just a guideline. Basically, you want to put in there something perhaps about the benefit of choosing yourself as an agent. I know agents that have done little brochures that they have printed up. They're real nice, professional, and they add that in there. It tells about themselves, tells about how many houses they've sold, or just tells them in general, some generalities about that, who you are and why they should choose you. Of course, we also have the benefit of listing with Cherry Creek Properties in there. And there is something that I believe I've got that in here. If I can find it. Well. Oh, here we go. I actually took this off of our website. This was, and I don't know whether it's still there or not, but I hope it is. It basically says, why choose Cherry Creek Properties? And it goes on to tell you about how it's a smart choice. We help 4,100 buyers and sellers achieve their goals. We sell a lot of real estate. And so it goes on and talks about Cherry Creek Properties, who we are, the kind of support that you have, the number of agents that we've got, and why Cherry Creek Properties is a good choice for them. So, and you being an agent of Cherry Creek Properties. Title company rate cards. You just got one from Homestead Mortgage. So you can include something like that. I usually put in 2 or 3 of those because you always want to give everyone a choice on anything that you're recommending to them. Homestead, I've got land title, not sure who else, Fidelity, and, oh no, let's see, that's, yeah, got land title and Homestead Mortgage. Home buyer warranty brochures, this kind of thing. Oops. Offering telling the buyer about, or the seller about home buyer warranties that they can include for their house. And of course, a SkyStar Mortgage brochure, and maybe, I'm not sure, you can probably add another one of those or something else in there too from another mortgage company if you wish. But this is kind of one of the things that I do. These are $2.50 from downstairs. You can buy these from the office here. I always keep 10 or 20 of them. I use them for everything. Handing out to clients. Of course, I do recruiting for my office, and I hand them out to other agents as well. So those things are very important, and that's something you can leave with the sellers, and they can go back and look at it and look at the information you provided with them. Anybody got any questions up to this point? Everybody's fine? Okay. Research on the property address. And this is fairly straightforward. You want, like I said, you want to look for previous listings of the property in the MLS, find out what it sold for, if there is any. If not, if it's a house that's been sitting, off the market for 20 years, about the only information you'll get is from that public records report and the O&E report from the title company. One of the things I put in here is, if possible, preview current active listings. This can give you an idea, and I've actually done this. I've taken sellers to a showing, schedule a showing for one of their neighbors' homes, and go show it to them, show them what condition it is. Of course, you may want to do your homework ahead of time and go make sure it's one you want to show them. But that can always help. That can give them an idea of what's involved in getting their house prepared to look as good as it can when people are coming to look at their house. MLS listing checklist and input sheet. This is something that I always take with me. I've got one from Iris that I generally have. I don't see I brought one, but the input sheet is very important to take with you. What it does is it gives you a list of all of the possibilities of what this house has. What direction it faces, whether it's got air conditioning, whether it's got swamp cooler, whether it's 3 or 4 bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. So this is to go down and make sure that when you put something in the MLS, everything is going to be there, and that's extremely important.
Where can we get a checklist?
What's that?
Where can we get a checklist?
Oh, that's going to be on the MLS. Now, does anyone know MetroList about? Does anybody use MetroList for a checklist? Do they have a checklist?
Yeah, you can.
An input checklist that you can take with you?
Yeah,
print?
if you go to log into your MLS, there's a place somewhere, they have like documents.
Input
Yeah,
sheets.
it's called,
Yeah.
I think it's under input actually.
Yeah, and Iris has one, I know, it's like the very first thing that they have, and then when you go to documents, they have input sheet, and you take that with you, and it, I'm kind of amazed I didn't have that, because I thought I did. So you're doing research on the property. One of the final things you do is comparative market analysis. And when you do a comparative market analysis, and what that looks like, I did one on Iris. Actually, I did this on Cloud CMA, I believe. And this is just the freebie Cloud CMA that you can get on the MLS. And basically what you do is you put in the home that you're looking at. You can have it do a search of properties that sold in a certain amount of time, and it can come up with, you get a map. It'll print this report out for you, and actually if you print out the full report, it can be this thick. So you want to go through and select it. Select what you can do and what you need to include there. But as you can see, this particular one, it had 4 or 5 listings that, or 6 listings here, or 5 listings, I guess, that I chose that had sold. And it gives you a map in this particular subdivision of where they were, what they sold for. And when you get that list of the solds in an area, you want to make sure that you take a look and make sure that it's comparable. There may be a house in the neighborhood that's 1.5 million, and you're in a neighborhood of $500,000 houses, and the one you're listing is probably in that range. So if you have one that's off the, out of the ordinary, take that out of there. Just click on the ones, just keep the ones in that match up to the property that you're interested in. And when you get done, what happens is it'll give you average prices. This particular one does not. I've done some of these on different programs, and some of them will give you price ranges that you should list it at and so forth. This one just basically gives you the actual statistic of what's the average sale price in the neighborhood. What's the average listing price. In this particular one, the average listing price was $487,000, and the sold price was $475,000.
Is that the report that you're referring to?
Yeah.
That we can get from Input?
Yeah, and this, MetroList has CMA,
Right.
and so does Iris. And this is the, just the version that's free. I think you can buy it and get an enhanced thing that allows you to put more information in, or you can get better pictures and that type of thing. But, and it will print a picture. If you have a picture, you can upload a picture in there of the property, which isn't a bad idea to do. It's kind of impressive if you hand your sellers, your client, for this listing presentation, you hand them this, and it's got a picture of their house on it. Of course, you have to drive by sometime to take a picture. But that's a way to do it. This particular one, it shows actual pictures and gives descriptions of the houses that sold, so that you're comparing apples to apples. That's what you want to do. You want to show them houses that are similar to what they have.
Do you work with adjustments in your CMA?
You can.
I find anybody to be very specific with adjustments in terms of helping me out.
I know that there are some things out there. You can look on the internet. I've had some people provide that. One of the things you have to be careful of is that you're a real estate agent. You're not an appraiser. So appraisers do adjustments. You can make general adjustments, obvious adjustments. If a house doesn't have a garage and the next house has a 2-car garage, obviously there's going to be $10,000, $15,000 difference there, maybe more. So it's kind of obvious, and you can perhaps on things. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you're in an area where you're looking at older homes where there wasn't two houses in the whole subdivision that were the same. They're all different. So, yeah, sometimes it's tough to figure out exactly what that comparable is. This is be honest with you, this is a guessing game as to what that pricing is, but you've got to try to do your best at figuring that out. That's what this is all about. So when you do this comparative analysis, the first thing you do is you look up active listings that are in the subdivision. You look for sold listings in the subdivision. And usually what I do is I look for the past 3 to 4 months. If you go, sometimes you need to go further back. You may find in this subdivision there were only 2 houses sold. You may need a little bit more information if you can get it. The problem with going back too far is the pricing obviously has changed in the last 6-8 months. Things are going up all the time here now, whereas 2 years ago they weren't. So if you had to go way back, you're not probably going to be in the right ballpark. The other thing you want to do is look for withdrawn and expired listings. This tells you where you don't want to be. It tells your sellers, this is a price that didn't work for this house. And they had to withdraw it, or it expired because it didn't sell. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb anyway. Obviously there's other reasons, there's always other factors that are involved. Location, of course, can be extremely important. If you're backing up to a major highway, tough property to sell. So,
Not in this market.
not in this market. Yeah, you can, well, there's examples of it, that's for sure. So, what do you take to the appointment? You take your presentation folder, take 2 copies of the exclusive right to sell contract. You're going with the assumption that you're going to list this property. And if you're lucky, the people will have internet at their house, or you have a tablet that you have Wi-Fi on, and maybe you can write up a contract online on CTM or DocuSign. If not, do it by paper. It's still there. It's still a way to do it. You can still handwrite. So don't leave that out. Leave that as an option. You may be. It depends on your people too. It depends on who you're talking to. If your clients are 80 years old, there's a big possibility they're not going to be interested in working with you on online contracts. They may want to see paper copies of everything. I've had that happen, and you just do it. And you end up with a file about this deep, whereas nowadays everything's online. So, one of the things that I included in the papers here is a preliminary seller's net sheet. You may or may not be able to fill that out until you go to the appointment, but you can take that, and I think I just printed up that's actually on our dashboard under files, and I want to throw out right now, that is probably one of the most important places to be when you're working on stuff for Cherry Creek Properties. Use the files thing on the dashboard, on the agent dashboard. Do all of you access the agent dashboard all the time? Okay. When you do, you go up to the very top under files, open that, it'll pop up over on the left, and go under office documents, I believe, or office files. Click on that and it gives you a list of different things that this company has. Everything from some of these STARS classes are on there, these PowerPoint presentations are on there, I think, for almost every class. But a lot of information, a lot of different documents that you can utilize. So that's one of those. The preliminary seller's net sheet is in there. A laser measuring tool over tape measure. One of my pet peeves is looking at a listing and the agent was lazy and didn't take any measurements, didn't write down in there any sizes of any of the rooms. I don't mind if he leaves out the laundry room or something like that, but I'd like to know what the size of the living room is, the size of the kitchen, or the dining room, what's the size of the master bedroom. We all know that a lot of other bedrooms are 10 by 12 or 10 by 11 or something of that nature, but the sizes of those rooms are important. Take that measuring tool with you and measure while you're going around the house with people, or do that after you get the listing paperwork done.
I have a question with measuring. So if you have an open floor plan, say it's a condo, living, dining, kitchen, do you still measure each kind of like do like an imaginary wall to
You can,
living, dining,
you can
kitchen,
kind
or
of
do
get
you
those
say
general.
living, dining, kitchen, one?
Keep in mind that what you're putting on there is not specific actual measurements. They're approximate measurements. And I think we even have a disclaimer on the bottom of any MLS sheet that says that.
I'm not clear. Are you saying yes, measure what you would consider the living room and an imaginary wall, what you consider the dining room?
Yeah.
And so do 3 separate measurements?
You can. If you have everything in one room, what's that called? It's called a great room.
Well, that's not a great.
And I know it's not on the MLS. So, right? There's not a selection there, I don't think. But yeah, you can do that. You can try to figure out where the end of a dining room is and where the end of the living room is. I mean, it's kind of, you're just given a general idea of what the size is. And if you don't feel like it, then you can leave it out. But when there's 4 walls, I don't see any reason why you can't make a little bit of a measurement and put it in the MLS. Give that information. The more information you give on your MLS sheet, the more professional you look. Your sellers are going to be impressed with that. That's important. Those things are important to have all of that stuff. So, a laptop or tablet to show your presentation. And when we talk about a presentation, we're talking about a separate entity that you can take with you on your laptop or tablet that you can utilize to basically introduce yourself, what you're doing, what your plan is, and we're going to go over that. You go to the appointment. The time finally comes, and you grab all of your stuff, and you show up to these people's house, and of course, depending on who it is, if it's a friend or a neighbor, someone you really know well, you're going to feel real comfortable. If it's someone you don't know real well, you're going to need to put on a first impression type of thing, and you want to be able to come in and talk and shake their hand and smile and be happy about things. I always go in and ask for a tour of the home, the first thing. I want to see what we're talking about. And that's what they wanted you to come over for. They wanted to show you their house. They want to tell you about it and why they want to sell it. So go on that tour if you can. And when you do, look for the positives, look for things that are, that have been upgraded, that have been changed, that look good. If they've, many times when people have you over to do a listing presentation, they clean their house up, they pick it up. They don't just leave dirty laundry laying around and kids' toys laying around in the living room. They expect that you're going to come with an evil eye to look at what their place looks like. And so generally you'll get that situation, and that'll be fine. So when you walk around the house, look for those upgrades, look for the changes, talk to them about what they've done to the house. What have you added since you've been here? Those kind of things are very important. Any questions up to this point? Again, yes?
The CMA, are you walking in this appointment with it already done?
Yes.
And you haven't seen the house?
Well, I generally walk in with one that, I will do one that is more generalized. I don't go into huge detail. And yes, if there are adjustments of some sort to make, this particular one that I have here literally was done in about 3 or 4 minutes on Cloud CMA, and it pulled up the houses that were done in that had been sold in the time period, and I chose the ones that were comparable to the house that we were looking at, and I didn't make any adjustments. I just picked out ones that looked like, this happened to be a subdivision, a builder subdivision, and all the houses were Ryland and somebody else there. So a lot of the same models within the same, yeah. And so it was not too, and when you get that, it's not too hard to figure out what houses, especially if you know what the model is, and somebody else has the one that's the same model or the same floor plan. And sometimes when you go to your listing presentation, ask the people what if they know what the model is, if it's a newer house, or if they purchased it brand new. Find out if they know what the model is, who the builder was, that type of thing. Just a little more information you can put on the MLS, but it also gives you that comparable, a better thing to look for the comparable.
If you do go in and realize there's a whole lot you're going to have to change about it,
I like to go in with this, and there have been times when I find that the house perhaps doesn't compare with the rest of the neighborhood, and I may not even pull this out. I don't necessarily put this in the presentation folder that I hand in at the end, but it's something I take with me. And yes, after you do the listing presentation with them and you talk to them, if you do find out that there's additional things that they've done, that there's adjustments to be made, you can do a little bit more detailed CMA.
is the net sheet included in this CMA? Does it work one up for you in the MLS?
No, the net sheet is taken that's basically the mortgage information. That basically is how much do they owe on the house. If they sold it for this price, how much are they going to get after all the closing costs from the title company. So
CTM has a net sheet.
Okay. And you can apply it to your CMA?
Email it.
CTM has a net sheet. Like I said, our dashboard has a net sheet. And it's, I believe, it's in an Excel form where you can actually fill it in with figures and print it out. So. At this point, I'm going to take a little break. Anybody need a little break? After the break, about 5 minutes, and we'll get into a listing presentation. On the second half of this thing,
They can take.
you are at your appointment. You've gone through a tour with the sellers, with the clients, and you're going to go sit down at the kitchen table and talk a little bit about what their plans are and what you can do for them, and so that's what this is about. And I've got on here, sit down and tell about yourself. This is something that can be included in your presentation folder, like I talked about. You can put a brochure in there, you can put a little letter in there that talks about who you are and what you are. But a lot of people put it in a showing presentation that they put in a PowerPoint, or you can print it out. We used to print them out in packets like this and hand people and go over it with them. This is the part that Lori normally does. So what she does is she goes over her own listing presentation. And Patrice, I think I've seen yours online. It's not online anymore, so I took it off. But Dino's is online. We've got, if you look at our dashboard once again and look under the stars classes, go over there at the very top, you're going to see Dino's own presentation. Some of it's kind of funny because I saw in there that one of the things he says is put your listing in a newspaper ad. Not very many of us do that anymore. So I know that he hasn't changed that already. But bear with me here for a second. I'm going to change out and go over to this. And this actually is online. This is what is called a sample, and it's sort of a template. It really is there to give you some ideas on what you can utilize or what you can include. And this is, nothing is written in stone on this kind of thing. I often do these kinds of things. I do a fairly short one, and I may do a PowerPoint presentation telling about myself, maybe telling about the company I'm working for, telling about what my procedures are and what my responsibilities are. I like to not put a whole hour's worth of stuff in there so that you're sitting at the kitchen table going through this PowerPoint presentation with your people. But it's important to have something there that you can give and do. So this is basically, like I said, some ideas. Again, the first thing a lot of times people will put in is about yourself. This particular one is simply talking about Cherry Creek Properties and who we are. Again, it's very much like that sheet that I talked about, and you can use this information. And sometimes you may have to update that because there may be over 1,000 brokers, or we may have 18 offices. You may have to change some of those things. This is in here. This, of course, you recognize our values, the fleur-de-lis, and all the letters that stands for. You can include this in there if you'd like.
I was wondering why they used Thursday. That's
Well, that's somebody came up with that.
Where's that information about Cherry Creek Properties from? From the slide before about...
It's on the dashboard.
It's on the
That's on the
dashboard.
dashboard?
Yeah,
That
this
one?
stuff is, this actual presentation, this sample is on the dashboard. Under Files, Office Docs, go down to Stars Presentations, and it's the very first thing listed when you go up there, or the second thing, something like that. But you can go through these on your own, you can look at them, but basically, I just want to go through this to try to give you an idea of the things that you want to put in there and the things that you want to talk about in a presentation. And I think one of the biggest reasons that we do these PowerPoint presentations, at least at this point in time, it's the technology. The technology is impressive. It looks very professional, and that's what you're trying to convey to your clients is professionalism and talk about, be proud of who you're working for. This particular one is talking about 20 years of experience. Obviously, if you're a new agent, you don't have 20 years of experience. You can put other things in there. Like I said, this is these things are generalizations of what you can use and give you some ideas. These things are important. Key objectives, what you're going to do, what you're going to be looking at for these clients. You're going to be looking at pricing at their home's highest market value, and what do we think we can get out of it. And I think that the pricing is reiterated in here. You'll see this. There's many times you can talk about it and add it in. Timing and the desired time period and convenience. Trying to make everything as convenient and easy as possible as far as selling their home, doing the transaction, and letting them be able to move. This talks about source of buyers, and this is a really good thing to show clients. The internet and the real estate broker are the two main things that people use to find homes where buyers are looking. And you can see print advertising is down quite a bit, home books and magazines. Somebody mentioned the other day, or somewhere, the old home books that you go to the grocery store and pick up. They were this thick, and now they're about 3 or 4 pages long, because nobody advertises in them anymore. They're just online. Talk about my service and marketing plan. And I think this is probably the biggest thing that you're doing here is you're trying to set yourself aside, set yourself above what everybody else is doing by talking to them about all of the different things that you provide. You're not a discount broker, you're a broker that is trying to give them all the service that's available. And you can talk about preparation of your property for staging, photography, and showings. Of course, you input the listing into the whatever MLS system that you're utilizing, or both. I actually do have an account with MetroList, and I generally use it anytime I have a listing. I will put it on both Iris and MetroList. And I'm sure there's lots of people that have MetroList that may have Iris and they use it the same way. When you do that, and when you put it on, when you list a house with Cherry Creek, it's advertised on over 60 major real estate home sale websites.
How do we know that?
How do we know that? I guess that's a figure that the office has come up with all the different sites that it goes to, that it's spread out to.
So we put the house on the MLS, or you have to tell the Cherry Creek Properties for that?
I think it's probably both, because when you put something on the MLS, it kind of automatically goes to Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia, but there's peripheral ones that we're tied to.
When you're a realtor, it goes to more places than when you're
When
not
you're not a realtor.
So when you're a realtor and you put it on the MLS, then it automatically goes to all these different places.
Right.
And also, I think Cherry Creek Properties does pay a little bit of extra money to MetroList to make sure that we get that advertisement.
Can you say that again, please?
Well, I know that Cherry Creek Properties, make sure if we spend some money to, and give it to Metrolist to make sure that we get that exposure, number one, and number two, if you're a realtor, it goes more places. If you're just in ink, then it doesn't go as many places.
That's why we need to be a realtor. Interesting.
You can visit your local board of realtors if you are a board member, and I know that a lot of the boards have meetings, perhaps weekly. It's not quite as prevalent as it used to be, but that's something you can do. And of course, yard signs to attract drive-by buyers. And when we're talking about yard signs, of course, we also want to talk about our Mobility RE. Is everybody using that? Mobility RE? Have you got it on your phone? And are you sending it to your clients? You can send it to sellers or buyers, either way. If your sellers are going to be out buying another house, it might come in handy for them there too. But that yard sign pointing to, that's one of the pluses of our company, is that we have that Mobility RE that will capture buyers that come by that listing, and if they text in your number, you get an email and possibly a text as well. But if you guys don't know about that, there's a way to get rid of that. You go on the profile under the dashboard, and you can unclick text on those so that you don't get text. You just get an email. But
those texts are always cut off. And then we get the
oh, are they? I stopped. Yeah,
Pretty worthless.
I took the text thing off. Yeah.
Where is that on the dashboard? Under your personal?
It's under go on the dashboard in the very right-hand corner. I think it says office information or something, and it's the very far right. You click on that and go down, and it says personal, my profile. Click under my profile. There's certain things that you can change in there on your own. And of course, laminated full-color flyers attached to the sign. I'm a believer in that. A lot of people sometimes aren't. It's a debatable thing. Maybe I'm just old school. I like brochures. It's kind of fun for me. I like making a brochure and being creative with writing in the information and seeing if I can attract people to that. So that's one of the things that one of my pet peeves is having an empty box. And a lot of times I leave my box empty if I have the house under contract. But I may not. I may leave some there. I may put, especially if I had a bunch made, what are you going to do with them? You might as well put them in and have people grab your thing and see the house, read about that, but they also have your name. I got a call about a year ago. I got a call from somebody who had picked up my flyer at a house I had listed in Arvada 3 years previously. They had kept that brochure that long and had my name and phone number.
It's a nice brochure.
Must have been.
Yeah, it was a nice brochure. More of my service and marketing plan, the sign writers were talked about. You can follow up. I don't know about you guys, but when I've gotten the emails from Mobility RE, I text people back. I've tried calling, and in general, it's an awkward phone call. But I've had better luck with texting back. So because they texted in, they kind of get a response back, and they go, oh. But I have, I just introduced myself. I'm Ron Pierce, and I'm broker with Cherry Creek Properties. I saw you were looking at the house I have listed, and just wondered if you had further questions, if you'd be interested in looking at the house. And I've had 2 or 3 people actually respond back and say, yes, we would like to see the house. And they didn't give me any indication otherwise. But once I did that, and so that's one way of getting more people. Feature your property on ccpre.com. Announce your property. We mentioned Facebook here, that LinkedIn communication that we get an email for every day is a great place to put that as well. Let everybody know you just got a new listing, or what's going on there. Communicate with you on a frequent basis regarding the status of the sale of your home. Probably one of the more important key items in working with sellers is making sure that they understand that you're going to be in communication with them as often as needed, and even if not needed in some cases. If the house is standing and not selling, you need to talk to them about why and what's going on with it. The other thing is, if you get feedback, and I think that's actually in one of these slides, here it is, provide feedback. If you have a listing and you're getting feedback from that, from centralized showings on it, and over again people say the house was cluttered and dirty, we smelled something in the house, your sellers need to know that. They need to understand what the buyers are seeing when they're, or smelling when they walk into that house, and they maybe can fix that. Maybe they can't. There's some things they just can't fix. They can't fix the fact that the house is a 4-level house and has stairs everywhere. But they can fix things that have to do with their furniture or their clutter and their cleanliness, their pets, whatever. Evaluate all offers. This is one of the things that you do. Negotiate the final agreement. Always protect your interests. Coordinate the entire closing process. And of course review closing documents and advise you concerning the closing. And my service and marketing plan. Advertise on Craigslist. You can do open houses. And notice this says optional. Some people don't do open houses, so if you don't like to do open houses, don't mention it. But you may have sellers that want you to. And I think somebody said earlier that in this market, open houses almost don't happen anymore, simply because the house is on the market and it's gone the next day or two. So you may put the house up for listing on Wednesday and by Saturday it's gone. So. But that's something that certainly you can do. And of course, open houses are a great way to meet more buyers. Another great thing about open houses, and one of the things I always mention, I'm not sure if it's in here, is I always do a listing, just listed type of postcard in the neighborhood. I try to do just some maybe surrounding area or something, but spend a little bit of money and do that. And especially if you're having an open house, you can do a just listed open house this coming Saturday. You'd be surprised how many people in the neighborhood may show up for that open house, and you may even find out some of those people who are neighbors are thinking about selling their house too. I had that happen to me in Erie last year, 2 years ago. I had a listing and I had an open house with the Cherokee Properties websites. You've all got your own. Okay. I have my own, and when I put a listing on my website, it goes to a whole bunch of places as well. So I never know if it goes twice or not. But Twitter announcements, you can use all of the social media tools that you wish, that you're involved in. More of my service and marketing plan. I'm kind of trying to go through this a little faster. Professional photography and video tour. I believe we've got OBO available. We have, I think we get a discount with them for pictures and for videos, and certainly something to consider. Some people think that they're pretty good at photography, and if they are, use your own. Nothing against it. Just don't use your cell phone to try to take a really good picture. Of course, the cell phones are starting to get better these days, but I certainly recommend professional photographer if you have that availability. And of course, it depends on the house. If you're selling a house that's a $200,000 level house or something, you may not want to spend the money on a professional photographer. If you're selling a $500,000 above house, I definitely would. Professional results result in a higher sales price. Something about the Wall Street Journal here has this is actual. There can be significant difference. I don't know how old these pictures are in this, but these look like something from the 70s, but first impressions, and I guess these pictures are something of what you don't want to see. Again, maximizing our internet exposure. This is something you're including. You can use this particular slide if you'd like. It certainly doesn't have 60 different places on there, so it just kind of gives you an idea. I think this is important. Should I fail to complete my marketing plan as specifically designed for you and mutually agreed to in writing, you can terminate our agreement with written notice. This kind of gives the seller the idea that, you know what, I'm not locked in with this guy if I don't like him, or if I don't like or think he's doing what he says he's going to do. I certainly had that happen to me when I was not in real estate. I put a house up for sale with an agent. The last time I saw him and had any communication with him was the day I listed the house. After that, all I got was phone call once in a while from his office to ask if there were brochures, and obviously I fired him after about a month and a half and got somebody else who was much better. So, you know, there's plenty of agents out there who you can put the listing with. It's whether they do what they say they're going to do. This kind of gives you an idea, and I like to use something like this in a presentation. It gives the seller an idea of what their responsibilities and duties are besides just the listing broker. Obviously, you're put the thing in the MLS, you're going to install a sign, you're going to give them your custom marketing plan, etc. But the seller needs to be aware that they're the ones that are going to decide whether a showing takes place or not, whether there are repairs are done, whether the house is clean, whether it's been staged. Important is to hide their valuables. They need to keep if you have marketing material that you've left in the house in terms of brochures. Some people, you make a booklet up to leave in their listing that gives school information, neighborhood information, community information, all that's available online. I think actually Realist has some of that under house values. And when you go under that, you pull it up, and you'll see at the top it gives you all these different reports, and you can print some of those reports out. It gives you phone numbers, all kinds of information. So utilize those things. Call me with any questions. It's up to the seller if they've got questions and they want it. And they need to make sure that, or you need to make sure that they are aware that you're available. You're always available for them to call or to text or whatever. And that's happening to me a lot nowadays. It's the clients are texting me all the time instead of, because they know that I'm always doing something else and I'm hard to get a hold of on the phone. They always have to leave a message. So if they just text me, sometimes if I'm in a meeting, I can just text them back. Just fine. But if I get a phone mail or a voicemail, I can't respond to that until I listen to it. So, and of course, you're going to ask them to refer friends and acquaintances who might be interested in your property. This is talking about the things that you haven't, that you do and you don't control. And again, it's seller's controls, property condition, the availability of the showing, the price, the home warranty. The seller doesn't control the competition. They don't control what the market is and what that market price is. They don't control the interest rates and what type of buyers are going to come and look at their house. The home warranty plan, I think this was something that I talked about, having a plan brochure in your presentation folder. You can hand those to the people and talk about the advantages of those at your presentation as well. I kind of think those as an afterthought, depends on the house. If it's a newer house, you may not be making a lot of sense. If it's an older house, it may be an incentive for a buyer to go ahead and purchase, simply because they know they've got a warranty on the major things, the appliances, the hot water heater, those kind of things. Again, the selling price versus timing, and you'll see this reiterated all over the place. And you've probably seen this graph in this form or other forms, basically talking about how when is the activity the highest when you list the house. Obviously, it's right away, right at the very beginning. Every real estate agent that has a buyer wants to go show your house, and once they found out about it and it's still on the market, they leave it alone, and if it's still on the market, less and less will show up, and pretty soon your showings will dribble down to only a few people who are getting new buyers coming along at the time, and your house happens to fall in their parameters. So obviously this is something that is important in terms of that CMA. What price do we need to put on this listing? We want to do a market value. Talk about, this is just more information, and again, I want to reiterate here that this is a lot of information. Obviously, if we tried to go through this with a seller, you would feel encumbered by too much information. Hone it down, figure out what's important for you to talk about, and utilize some of these slides. When an offer is received, you talk about acceptance, rejection, counteroffers, and so forth. And you can read on through that. This again, another graph that you could utilize, home selling process and transaction management. You can talk about inspections and what happens with inspections and why the seller needs to be aware of the fact that that's how the buyer can get out of the contract. There's not a lot of ways that the seller can get out of the contract, but there's lots of ways that the buyer can get out, and of course the inspection is number one. So the seller needs to be aware of any repairs that need to be done to their house, at least the ones that they can afford to fix, and try to take care of those before you put it on listing on the MLS. Another graph on contract to close, transaction management. Again, the same thing. Pricing factor, important, intelligent pricing. The market value price is where 60% of the buyers will pay for that price. Whereas, obviously, if you lower the price, you'll have more buyers interested. You know, if you give something away for free, lots of people are going to show up. So, but if you try to overprice it, you get less and less of those buyers to be able to look at your house. More on my pricing misconceptions. Sold comparables is how you determine the market value. Our pricing strategy, evaluating the market data, what has sold, what is currently for sale. We're calling that fantasy land. This is what people want for their houses. Obviously, many people will build in a little bit of a cushion, thinking they may get a lower offer. In this market, I've seen it go the other way, where I put a listing up that was listed at $233,000. We were probably $10,000, $15,000 above where the market was in that neighborhood in the last solds, but just kind of building in the fact that prices had risen. And so we listed it at $233,000. We got an offer for $250,000, and went through everything until the appraisal. The appraisal came back at $232,000. So we had nowhere to go but just accept the $232,000, which actually the seller was happy with. He didn't expect it at the $250,000, and we talked to him about that ahead of time. People are putting out their offers, but just to get the contract, but they may not qualify, especially if they've got a loan. If it's a cash offer and there's no appraisal, maybe you're in great shape. So. Again, the things that are under contract and what didn't sell, these are, of course, good price indicators for you, where you should be for that pricing. Again, what's your net closing, what's your net at closing, estimate your net proceeds, and that's it on that part. So bear with me while I go back. Oops. We just did the showing the listing presentation, which again honed this thing down to something that's usable for yourself and more specific to the property that you're talking about. You do have to get a little bit of origination in there, or be original with it, but utilize those slides if you can. Beyond the appointment, beyond the presentation, present your findings concerning the market. Again, your comparative market analysis. Discuss the needs of the sellers and what their plans are, and basically ask them if they'll hire you and list and you can list their home. First thing that happens, and of course, when you're at a listing presentation and you're talking to people, they're going to have questions for you, they're going to have objections, and it's your job to know what to say and how to get beyond those. Probably the biggest thing is the listing price. And again, you've gone through, and this is where it's important to include that in your presentation at the beginning, where you're reiterating over and over again the market value of the property is what you want to be able to list that property at, not the fantasy land price up here that the seller always thinks his house is worth. It's worth a lot more than any other house in this neighborhood. Look what I've done to it. You go to the other part of the neighborhood and you show him one of those active listings, and he finds out, gee, that guy he finished his basement. he put granite countertops and stainless steel appliances in his kitchen. He has all new hardwood flooring. He did a whole lot of things to his house too. And this is where his price was. So that's where it's important. Amount of commission, of course, that's another objection. And of course, we all know that that's variable. That's a negotiable fee. Most of us tried it. One of the things I always want to reiterate, especially with those of you who are new and are working with mentors, you need to make sure that you're including a commission that's high enough that you're paying Cherry Creek Properties their 2.8% or based on 2.8%. Did everybody understand that? That have mentors?
Say that again. I didn't.
When you sell a property, what you list normally, you're setting that amount of commission.
Right.
And you're paid on, you have a split with the company, and you need to make sure that you have a 2.8% commission base that you're going to make, and that covers that percentage and your transaction fee. Okay? An example of that is, I had one of my mentees sell his sister's home. He figured it out backwards. How much do I owe Cherry Creek Properties? How much is it going to cost me to list this house? I'll take $100 above that. And that's basically what he did. He set up a price. Well, he came close. I think he ended up doing 1% for the listing. And it worked out. Exactly right. Will you do open houses? And we need to think about it. The part about we need to think about it, this is one of those things where I know Lori has always said what she does is she tells the people, why don't we go ahead and sign up the paperwork? Unless there's something that I haven't, that I mistook or you don't understand or you don't like about me, and if everything's okay with what I've told you and you feel like I can do the job for you, let's go ahead and write up the paperwork. And if by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning you don't want to do this, just give me a call. I'll tear up the paperwork. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and put it on the MLS and listen. And it's another part of that guarantee thing. If you want to let them guarantee it, you're guaranteeing that they can back out if they want to. This part, I can go through this fairly quickly. You get the listing, now what do you do? And this is an important thing because all of this is a process. You got the appointment, you prepared for the appointment, you went to the appointment, you got the listing. Now your work begins. Of course, you do the contracts and the forms, electronic versus paper. Hopefully you can get it done with electronic. It's so much easier. Use the MLS input sheet, like I said. This gives you details to put into the MLS, and as you go through the MLS listing process, you're going to find it's going to ask you these questions. Which direction does the house face? Oh, gee, I didn't notice that. Notice it when you're there. Write it down on those. Go through that list and write those things down. Talk to the sellers about the listing process. Tell them about what you're doing. It gives them a feeling of knowing that you're working for that money that you're going to make from them. House sellers should prepare for showings, lock boxes, pets, prior notice. All of these things are very important to talk to the sellers ahead of time so that they're completely aware of the process. We all use centralized showings. Centralized showings give them a phone call. when they get the phone call that Centralized Showing says they have somebody who wants to look at the house at 3 o'clock this afternoon, is it okay to set that appointment? Hopefully your sellers are in the situation where they can say yes and go away. And one of the things you want to try to make sure and talk to them about is go away during a showing. Don't be there if you can help it. You know, there are instances and there are circumstances that sometimes it may happen, but for the most part, you want them to not be there. Ask them if they need to have somebody help them stage their home. I had a bachelor I sold a house for that wouldn't know how to clean a house, pick up a house, or anything else. And I had a stager come in and consult with him. He ended up spending a little bit of money with that stager. But she brought in real nice furniture, set the whole place up. He put all of his stuff in storage. And house sold in one day, of course, and this was a year and a half ago. This was not in today's exact market, so that was kind of a rarity then. Again, take lots of photos. 25 photos are allowed on the MLS. 50, I believe, are allowed on Cherry Creek properties, as I recall Dino saying. I've heard him say that. Of course, prepare your flyers, brochures for the sign box. Enter the listing in the MLS and hit save if it's not quite ready to list. In other words, if your listing date is different than when your contract is. Of course, put up your Cherry Creek property sale sign with your mobile RE sign, rider. Hopefully you are getting those. If you don't know where to get them, RMD signs is our main source, I believe. For those, just a rider about this big, and I actually have it on my business card on the back. I have text CCP 165 to 32323 for real-time MLS listings. And you can, of course, maybe you want to have one that says for real-time MLS listings and information about this house, something of that nature. Put a lockbox in an easy accessible location, generally on the front door is what most people will do, if they can. If you can't, in the MLS, under instructions, with Centralized Showing, make sure you give instructions to them on where the lockbox is located. If it's back on the back fence by the garage, have that instruction in there. Your house presentation folder inside the house, activate the MLS listing, contact Centralized Showings, and put the listing there, add the listing to a personal website, Craigslist, etc. Again, this will start the process of having buyers looking at that property. Send out just listed postcards to the area. I try to do this every time, simply, again, it alerts everybody about who you are and that you listed a house in their neighborhood. And what you're trying to do is more business. Set up the next one. Finally, we get to the final part. Upload contract documents and forms to the Cherry Creek Property Document Management System, SkySlope now, within 72 hours of all signatures and initials. And make sure you're uploading things with signatures. It's worthless if you put something in that doesn't have a signature. You're going to have to go back and get that signature and have it filled out. One of the biggest things that I think, especially those of you who are mentees and working with mentors, you need to make sure that you're forwarding contracts and anything you're writing to your mentor first before you even have it taken to the client if possible. That way you can avoid mistakes in the contracts and of course make sure that they get the signatures and the people that are get the signatures. And that's it, guys. Sell their house. So we're 10 minutes early.
Yeah,